Hello, Zach. This is Harvard and Zach, right live from Las Vegas. What week is this? Like week 7 for the colleges?
Week 8, technically.
Week 8. Oh my God. And you know what? Those 8 weeks never fly by during April and May like they do during September and October. I just
Exactly.
hate this time of year because I think we're going to someday run out of games. Anyway, speaking of games, Syracuse, the Orange, off of a huge win last week. They're going to be down playing the Miami, Florida Hurricanes. And I had the line at what, 14 and a half or 15? What's your line
Now it's
about that?
7. Yeah, it's climbing up before tomorrow, that's for sure.
So it's climbing up. Hey, I got an interesting note for you, Zach, and
Mhm.
all the listeners out there. Let's see if you can get this right. What two of these four teams from Florida are in the top 25? All right, I'm going to give you a list of four teams. Is it Florida State, Central Florida, South Florida, or Florida? Two of those four are in the top 25. You want to take a gander?
I think it's all the above.
No. For the first time ever, Central Florida
Or
and
Florida State.
South Florida join Miami, Florida as the only three Florida teams in the top 25.
Yeah, yeah, Florida
Florida
State.
State and Florida are not even in the top 25.
Wow.
Boy, does that tell you how times have changed. So, you guys that are looking over the lines and you don't even recognize that Central Florida or South Florida are in the AP and ESPN top 25, those are some good teams. You might want to start following them. Speaking of following, let's follow up last week. The Orange, they're coming off a huge 27-24 upset against Clemson. And I guess Miami, they edged Georgia Tech last week in 25-24. So my question to everybody is, can lightning strike twice? Syracuse, they stunned Clemson in a huge upset, and if you took them on the money line, it got paid 6-1.
Wow.
That means you bet that $200, and they pay you back 1,200 plus your money. Now, I believe the same type of payment, Zach, is going to be offered on this game. Is it? Aren't you going to be able to get about 6-1 on the money line?
I would say a little bit less, especially if it opened up at plus 14, so that money line is not as high as that. What was the
Well,
spread
it
again?
was
20, mid 20s, 26 or something like that.
14 and a half. The money line was plus 600. So if
Wow.
it's gone up 17, you might even find something. So I mean, Miami, they hope to remain undefeated, but last week they had to erase a late deficit, converted a field goal as time expired for Georgia Tech. Uh, I see this is going to be a fantastic ball game. I don't think there's going to be a blowout or anything like that. Uh, Syracuse, they're 3-0-1 against the spread in their last four conference games, 4-0 against the spread in the last 5 games overall. As we said, against Clemson last week. And Zach, I like the play of Eric Dungy. He did against Clemson's dominant defense. The Orange, they're averaging 318 passing yards per game. And if they can do damage against Clemson and their defense, I'm confident they can do it against Miami of Florida. Traditionally, Miami of Florida, they take too many chances on defense. They play a little bit sloppy. I don't think they have the discipline. And speaking of good defense, that coach up there at Syracuse, he's got that defense, and they are no slouch. So I think I just don't understand this line. Syracuse, they're very tough against the run. They held Clemson to only 113 yards last week. And a lot of people think, okay, they caught lightning in the bottle. It was just a one-time anomaly where they ended up upsetting them. And I'm not saying they're going to go out there and win straight up, but taking the points, I don't care how many points it is, 15, 16, 17. Let's get all over it for Harvard. And speaking of Harvard, before you close out this segment, I hope you can see this. If you need to get a hold of me or Wayne Root, it's contact me at jbplayslv6@gmail.com. And I answer every one of these emails. So if you got a question or if you want to know how to get involved in our service or something like that, just get a hold of me there. So, Zach, how do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, the Syracuse game. Of course, I'm a big Syracuse fan. Let's not forget this used to be an old Big East matchup back in the day, Miami versus Syracuse. So these two teams know each other. And I would say I look at a couple things in this. Obviously, the Hurricanes, they beat Florida State 2 weeks prior. They had a bye week prior to that. And then last week, of course, they played at home against Georgia Tech. So you're talking about a whole month where they haven't left the state of Florida. Very unique at this stage of the season in college football. Syracuse, that big upset win against Clemson, they had the right game plan. I mean, like you said, sometimes there's just lightning in the bottle with that. They had the right game plan. They had the right defensive team speed to negate Clemson's spread attack. And once their quarterback got knocked out, you kind of had a feeling that Syracuse had the momentum to win that game on a Friday game. But for the Hurricanes, they're undefeated. They squeezed out, like you said, House, back-to-back. Let's not forget that win against Florida State was in the last 10 seconds, that touchdown pass with 6 seconds left. Last week, game-winning field goal in the final second. So this is a team that you can see why people won't bet against in a steep spread from what they've done the past couple of weeks. But they've got the personnel to get it done. Mark Richt, the former Georgia Bulldog coach, has this team in line, and Rozier, their quarterback, is a winner. And sometimes if you have a quarterback that just knows how to win games, you build your team's confidence, and then you can steamroll a team. So I see this spread going up for a reason. Syracuse obviously left that upset win. Don't see it happening 2 times in a row just because their offense is not as strong as it needs to be to go on the road. They got that win at home, and it just was a bad line, obviously, against Clemson. But right here, I think you can take the points with Miami.
Oh, so you're laying the points.
Yeah, I'd say go ahead and lay the points this week.
Well, Malik Rozier, he's solid. He's having a strong season. He's got 1,371 yards passing, and his touchdown to interception ratio is 12 to 3, 12 touchdowns for every 3. But if you go and look at the same type of stats for Dungy, he's got basically 12 to 3 touchdown to interception ratio. He's passed for 2,100 yards, which is about comparable. But he's also added almost 400 yards rushing, which I think really is a difference. And also he's been hooking up with their senior wide receiver, Steve Ishmael, and he's just been grabbing ball after ball after ball. He's having a monster season, racking up 800 yards receiving. He's recorded over 100 yards in 5 of the 7 games. So he's going to be a factor out there. So I guess, we don't disagree too often, but, sign me up, coach, for those points. I'll take the points. I hope it gets to 17. And for everybody else, Zach is laying the points, and we're not trying to confuse everybody, but we can't agree on every game. So that's what it is. And we'll be going over to the NFL in just a second. So we'll see you in a few minutes.